Simone will do her.
So,
We'll do.
yes. No, well, so Alfred, did you do it? Did you do that, Marianne, or did Alfred do that?
That was Alfred.
Okay, so
Alfred.
thank you, Alfred. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh, So we'll just wait till everyone, whoever comes on, and then we'll go forth.
You know, you know something that I found. Have you heard of a Bob Beck blood purifier for warding off the flu? And I'll send you this.
You mentioned that, and I would
Yeah,
whatever you can send to me on that, I would
I will.
appreciate.
The fellow who has the company, Jason, is in the States. He manufactures them. They get made elsewhere. He's very good. Ships them out. It works really well. And other people, including myself, have noticed a big difference in not getting shedded on, not getting infections, but not getting shedded on. Huge because it sends an electric microcurrent through your blood,
Hmm.
through the veins, and they are like
Okay.
right in the wrist. So it basically purifies everything.
Now it's interesting you should mention the wrist because Dr. Thrivers, in a lot of his protocols, uses the wrist for some
Well, the
reason.
wrist has got it's got you got the pulsing and you got the two areas
Hmm.
in that can come through. So in this gadget, for example, you have two of these. You cover and then you put saline solution to keep it wet.
Yes.
Um, I noticed a difference immediately. The one thing though is when you're using that technology, you can't you gotta be very careful and not taking any medications or any very careful with all that because it will make the effects. Like I took half a Tylenol, half, and I was sick as a dog, just half. And most people take Tylenols for things, right? So it's just but it does work very well.
Okay. So if you can remember,
I
uh,
will.
okay, thank you.
I
Yeah.
will. So I'm just going to make sure nobody's, I sent the link out. Let me just make sure to everybody. Okay, forward. I'll resend it. Okay, okay,
As
okay.
you're doing that, in terms of some of the podcasters my
Yeah,
wife Kathy and I have listened to, who are some would say within the woo
yeah,
community,
yeah, yeah.
um, basically this is a time for anything, whether physical, whatever, has to come to the surface so that we clear the way for the new energies which are emerging in terms of this time. So it's kind of a purging
Yes.
to allow for the new resonances.
Just a second. Well, you know, it's there is a healing, cleaning, cleansing energy that is taking place. I just wondered, I forwarded what Alfred sent me, and I wondered if my group had the witnesses had mistakenly thought it was canceled. So I'm just gonna resend
Sure.
this again. The message paste. Oh, there's somebody.
Oh, there's
Oops.
Olga. Yes.
Okay, Olga's there. Okay, so I'll just send this again to Chris Taylor, um, Lindsay. Oh, Christine. I met Christine. It was lovely talking to Christine Wall. Um,
Oh, you connected.
I
Wonderful.
did. Yep.
Good.
Olga,
Yep.
you're here. Okay. Um, and yes, Sarah. Okay. In progress. Okay, so I resent it again. Hello, Olga. Hi. So we'll just wait a few minutes. Yeah, Olga and I were just speaking before. It really the crime is right in plain sight. I saw yesterday what I would say this crime in progress at there's a little forest off the beaten path here, very private, very off grid. And this is, I saw a worker with two um, First Nations children. So stolen children, like you could see the progress that they'd had. The workers have got service dogs that they're hiring, that they've got as a like a cute puppy for the kids, like a teddy bear. And you could see the kids were in shock. The kids were about 7 and 9. And I couldn't do very much. And the little boy, I think he understood that I understood what was happening, but there's not much that could like what could I do? If I went into the authorities, they'd say that's perfectly okay. So that's our, the issue. Huge issue. So how are you, Olga?
Thank you. Good, good. Send you. Did you see the message I sent you from uh, um, Francesca? And she is trying to introduce the Bill of Rights on the 20th of October. I don't know how she's going to do this.
Wow. Oh, wow. I didn't. Okay.
But she's saying, just quickly saying that the system is broken, and we are basically in a state of emergency, because every day of delay is another irreparable harm for a parent and a child.
Yeah.
The problem with the situation is a lack of accountability, which is accountability for the judges, their immunity, and those principles which prevent people from filing federal. So, and she's saying, why don't we try to introduce the bill, which would basically open, lower the barriers and remove the immunity shield, because because of the immunity, these judges create infrastructure which allows them to lower at their discretion, and their discretion is basically unlimited, which is potential felony in many cases. And we know it is. We just kind of cautiously finding euphemisms because it's unbearable to comprehend what's happening.
It
So
is because it's a legalized crime syndicate.
yes.
And I think that go ahead, Howard.
Well, Olga, were you on the meeting with James Tyre 2 weeks ago?
No, I learned about that meeting after post factum.
Okay, so I don't think the broadcast has gone up yet, or has it?
No, I'm guilty for that. I haven't been able to download.
Okay,
I will.
okay, because you need, once that's up, because basically, once again, I don't profess to know a lot, but I can frame it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to play in their sandbox, i.e., you're before the courts,
Mm-hmm.
there's a number of things that have to be established.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, if you have a trust and go in as a trust, someone with a trust, then you're going in with equity, much stronger, but most of us don't, we're not there yet. So therefore, all of you who are before the courts right now need to place a unlimited bond. And it's difficult because you're going to have to see a template as to how to do it, but you write your own bond. So for example, you've heard me mention Raul. When he went up against the TD Bank, found the fraud, found out that on the $200 million bond that is now at $500 million, that no taxes were paid by the TD, and he went to the CRA with the information. They asked him to pay $104 million on that, even though he created the $200 million bond. So he created another bond, paid for it, and when you hear James, that whole thing, it's not, you see, you're talking about the judges as being invincible. No, they're not. It's just that you don't know how to deal effectively. None of us really do. That's why that first meeting with James is so important, because when you start to understand what you can do, eventually you'll understand that you can actually go after the bonds of a judge. And so therefore, I'm just saying, I sort of stopped you mid-sentence, not to be rude, but because you don't have a knowledge base to to do things which, as we're learning, all of you are going to have new options. And by the way, what just happened this week in the last 1 week from October the 8th on with the Alliance of Indigenous Nations and the World Declaration. For any of you, and I think with Chris, as I remember it, he did not want his children vaccinated. That was an issue. Maybe some other of you have the same issue. With the alliance, with what just took place this week with the declaration, you have a new means and a new argument to go against the court over anything that took place between you, a spouse, and the vaccination of your children. That's huge, actually, and that's just happened.
Yeah.
Almost in my case, if I'm just talking generally about people that the courts cannot investigate. It's a kind of closed system. You can, it's very difficult. But in my case, the judge lost immunity, and he continued due to ADA violations. The ADA advocate removed immunity, but put the court on notice that retaliation, coercion, threats, interference were forbidden. Despite that, the judge escalated retaliation, losing any authority to issue orders. He continued to issue void orders, despite the orders were void ab initio, post immunity waiver. And
so Olga, which country are you operating within?
She's in the
United
US.
States.
The United States. So in Canada, I know two individuals who basically, because of the judge there before, they went to a higher level and they're going to a 3-panel judge. They initiated it. They filed the motion. So I don't know what, since you're in the United States, Marianne, all I can say is the sooner you can get that video out,
Yeah,
because
I think the best thing is let me get that uploaded. I wanted to get into the testimonies today but let me
yeah.
get that uploaded for you, Olga, because having a background in that, and when we get to the individual testimonies, I mean, some of us will touch into what happened in our court cases, and then we'll be able to talk about it with that layer of recognition of what's going on. So let me ask. Colleen, I think you were going to go next to be able to testify about what happened. And so I wonder if you could come in and I will do the affirming.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. And you probably need my camera on, right?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I'm just getting some stuff done real quick. And I made a little bit of a mess. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Did it come on? Ah! Why are you not working? Come on.
There it is. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that.
That's all good.
Okay.
So I'll say, so what I'm going to ask, welcome, Colleen, if you can state your full name for our record and just to affirm that you're going to provide truth in the testimony today.
Yes, my name is Colleen Autumn Smith, and I will be attesting to the truth and circumstances of my case today.
Okay, Colleen. So Colleen, I'm going to guide it a little bit so we can get in. Colleen, how many children do you have?
I have 2 children.
And would you be able to state their names and their ages right now for the record?
Yes, I have a son. His name is Walton Hurto, and he is 9. And I have a daughter. Her name is Amelia Hurto, and she is 6.
Do they live with you?
No, they do not.
I understand that they were taken through a family court process and that there was an agency, which we'll get into, which similar in a child welfare, sometimes the agencies come in different forms, whether it's a guardian ad litem. So I'm going to ask you, Colleen, can you start what happened, just about what the situation was before the family court and these people came into your life? Where did you live with your children?
Oh, where did I live? Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
because I was going to say there's a lot of things I could answer.
Just give it back. So
Okay.
where it was before they invaded.
Before everything got turned upside down, I was the custodial parent. My co-parent, Ben Hurto, was paying child support to me and $300 a month. He was not happy about that. We had a very conflict-ridden relationship trying to co-parent with each other. But I lived in a small town. I had an apartment with 2 bedrooms. I had them involved in soccer and ballet, and they were established in their school. We had friends and neighbors that we were all interconnected with. They were doing extremely well in school, and let's see here. I did my best to navigate the tumultuous relationship with their dad as best as I could. But he basically ended up getting together with a lady that a month into their relationship, they decided to start manipulating my children to call her mother, and she started spending the night at his place a month into their relationship. And I was very much upset with this. I didn't like it. I thought it was inappropriate, and it's not like they were married or anything like that, so it caused a lot of conflict. And let's see here. It would have been about 2 years after that they ended up filing for, well, it was a little less than that. I'm sorry, it was about a year and a half. And they decided to complain to a police officer in their hometown saying that I was beating my kids. And there was no evidence, there was no proof. My daughter had been the one that they were saying it happened to, had been in school for 3 days straight with mandated reporters, her teachers. Not one of them made a police report. Nobody called anything in because they didn't see anything and they didn't think anything was wrong. But he decided to make this report, and somehow that got sent at the flagpole, and they decided to take them to the Children's Advocacy Center, where they did interviews with the kids, and they mistook my children talking about his girlfriend, not his wife, calling her mom, and they misunderstood that as me, because they had no idea, because they didn't do any interviews with the family, that they were talking about his girlfriend and not me. And so I got charged with 7 felony counts by way of information, not a grand jury indictment, which is also illegal, unconstitutionally illegal. And then the guardian ad litem that Ben asked to be put on our case because he's alleging child abuse, with no evidence. She decided that because I got charged by professionals, quote unquote professionals, that I must have been guilty. And so therefore she went ahead and motioned to the judge to make an emergency temporary order to take away all of my rights and every bit of my visitation and not let me have any access to my children whatsoever. And that was 2.5 years ago.
So Colleen, if I can just so we understand for the record, because we've seen other testimonies where the government, whether it's an agency, takes something, either fabricates or takes something and twists it around. And so you mentioned that there were charges, and we notice almost every parent who's had some kind of government intervention agency, they are trying to get charges. Now, first of all, I understand that your mom, your ex got a girlfriend, and then this girlfriend was directing and teaching your children to call her mother.
Correct.
I can only imagine what. Well, that's horrifying. So, can you go very specifically so we know how they twisted that? I think they came home from a haircut one time. You want to tell everybody that you were they? It was a joint custody, and they came home and little.
So basically, because he got together with this girl, he decided to move out to Mount Vernon, Missouri from Republic, Missouri. And I know you guys don't know what that means, but basically he moved twice as far away from the children's school. So he was 20 minutes away from their school before, and then he moved 45 minutes away from their school. And so I decided that the best idea would be to modify, because I knew that all this horrendous behavior was happening with this girlfriend. He was homeless for several months, and so I modified, okay? And I wanted to get the kids where they could wake up every single day at the same house and go to school, and it be very consistent and constant and stable. So we were actually right at the precipice of finishing that modification, May of 2023. We were at the pretrial, and the judge was telling us what we needed to do for the trial to make sure that we were all prepared. And that day, that day in the pretrial, Ben told the judge, whenever he asked where the kids were at, that they were at home and they were sick. And I have that on record. I have it recorded. He told the judge that they were sick, and then he went home and took my daughter to a public salon. This apparently sick child took her to a public salon without talking to me first, and got her very first haircut. And he got it to look like his girlfriend's.
And I understand it was an unusual haircut. Do you want to tell everybody what the haircut looks like?
You see how my hair is up right now? So, like, I actually have long hair, but imagine that this hair looks like this right here, just this part, and then the rest of it is shaved off, and it's just long right there. So he shaved half of her head off and left the top part just a messed up, jumbled purple mess. It looked very, very awful. It looked kind of dykish, to be honest with you, because I'm a little bit more traditional. And she finally had long hair, and she finally had ringlets, and she finally was able to braid her hair, and they shaved half of it off, the bottom half of it off. What was the rest of the question? I'm sorry.
So when you saw this, when they came to be with you, okay, and you saw the haircut, you had a response to it, like most parents.
Yes. Yes, I was very upset. For one, I did not get consulted about this haircut. Two, it was of this woman that's very much inappropriate and overstepping her boundaries, and is not an important figure in my kid's life at all. I think they've been going out for maybe a year, and they were seriously just boyfriend and girlfriend. And then whenever I picked up my son from school, he told me that Amelia got her haircut with Alex, okay? And that's the girlfriend's name. So I'm upset. I am a parent who is upset that my daughter, who has been inappropriately calling someone else mom, and I've talked to her about it several times, about this is not appropriate behavior. That is not your mother. We don't call her that. We can call her something else. I'm very upset. I'm very upset about the whole situation. The entire thing is more like a powder keg, because of the fact that, I've dealt with gaslighting and manipulation from my ex, and then this on top of it, and my daughter has a ballet recital coming up where she's got to wear her hair in a bun and a bow and all this kind of stuff, and I'm just really upset. And so I bring my kids home, and I am under the impression that she did this with Alex, not got a haircut like Alex, which is what I found out later. What I was under the impression of is that she got a haircut with Alex. And so I was very upset with her, and I decided that I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting off the rest of her hair, because obviously it's already destroyed anyway. We might as well grow it all out together, and maybe it'll make it thicker like the Chinese babies whenever they shave their heads. So I went ahead and did that. Very logical. And I was upset with her, so I gave her corporal punishment, basically, which was a smack to the cheek. And let's see here. From that, on the Wednesday, it would have been a Friday that I picked her up. That next coming Wednesday, She'd been at school for 3 days with her teachers. Her dad heard about what happened and had the kids told him about how I was upset and I was yelling and upset with her for this behavior. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I need to back up. That night on Friday, I was very upset still. I was trying to cool off, and after like I'd gotten them something to eat and all that stuff, I had them sitting down to eat, and I went back in the bedroom and I was still just fuming, upset that my daughter was doing this kind of stuff and that her hair was gone and all this kind of stuff and just the whole circumstances in general. And I come back out and I asked my son, I'm like, why did you not stop Amelia from doing something like this? You know that I was not going to, it's not a good thing. And you know, I was not going to be happy. And like, you know, and he's like, well, Mom, I tried to go with them. I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean? And he said, I wanted to get a haircut too. But Dad wouldn't let me go with him. And I was like, wait, so you're saying that your dad took her to get a haircut and he wouldn't let you go with him to get a haircut too? So I've basically figured out after the fact of like being upset with my daughter, that I was too quick to anger. I was too quick to be, you know, upset with this. And that is my fault. That's fine. But that's also not illegal. But anyway, so I find out basically that what it looks like is that Ben purposely took her the day of the pretrial, knowing that he was going to lose, and I was going to have everything in place to go ahead and get the kids in a set and regular schedule that's very safe and stable for them. He took her to get her haircut, knowing that I was going to be upset because he knew that I had been telling my kids it's not appropriate to call her mother and treat her that way. So he purposely took my daughter and got her haircut like his girlfriend to incite me, to upset me, to cause a silver bullet. That's the colloquial term, is silver bullet. He purposely did that on purpose. And so whenever Wednesday came around, getting back to that part, picking back up, she had been to school 3 days with teachers that are mandated reporters, and not one of them said anything because there was nothing to worry about and there was nothing to report. On that third day, Wednesday, Ben picks him up and Walton tells him about what happened where I was upset with them, and Ben turns it into I beat them and that my daughter has a huge bruise on her cheek and calls the police over to his house and yada, yada, yada. The police officer himself says that, I'm sorry, there's not enough here for a prosecutor to ever pick this up. Maybe if you wouldn't have brought her back to your house, there's no way for me to know what's going on because she's at your house. I have no idea what is, you know, like you needed to do this at the school. And so they basically lie to him about a bunch of different things and talk about how I'm just awful and I'm like not willing to work with them and that I'm just like this horrible, horrible person that keeps on beating them. And so because of that, the police officer involves a detective, and the detective runs it up the flagpole to the CAC, the Children's Advocacy Center. And at that point, the children were so twisted and manipulated that they were talking about his girlfriend and calling her mom in these interviews. And, you know, basically they did no investigation other than those interviews. They didn't talk to CPS who had closed the case. They didn't talk to the teachers. They didn't talk to me. They talked to no one and just went ahead and ran with it and charged me with 7 felony counts.
Can I just, one thing, as Olga noticed, if you could adjust your mic because it's kind of crackly. And I also wanted to note to Judge Alfred, if he's able to hear, that there are some witnesses that may be trying to get in, just to be looking for them, because I think Felix, for example, and Felix and Chris. But I think, Colleen, from what I gather, from what you're saying, that there was almost like a setup. First of all, you've got an extremely volatile, stressful situation because you've got the father to your children's new girlfriend is training your children to call her mom.
Yes.
I don't know. I think it's kind of instinctual that you have to intervene in those things. That's just, I have to ask what kind of an individual would possibly say to try to train children that are not her own to call him mom, particularly when there is a mom who's alive and right there. And even if she wasn't, even if mom is deceased, you're not mom. You're never going to be mom.
You're
Mom
never going
is
to be mom.
right? Mom's
Absolutely
the
not
only
ever
title
going to
for
be
mom.
their mother.
Yes. So I understand that all of that is happening. And then it sounds like, is it fair to say that Ben possibly set this up for you
That's exactly what I think happened.
to get very angry and upset? And this one incident, it sounds like they nailed in on it to try to make something bigger than just
Something
one
out
incident,
of
and
it,
didn't
yes.
fail to look at the layers behind it, because one incident where somebody's just stressed to the max and set up in that position is very different from a pattern of abuse. Howard's got a question. Go ahead, Howard.
Okay. Hi, Colleen.
Hi,
Um,
Howard.
so basically, you said earlier, your husband was unemployed. So between the two of you, who is the breadwinner?
Well, what I had said is that after he got together with this girl, he got rid of his apartment and he was homeless for 4 months. He was technically employed mostly. He did end up quitting his job and getting a different job during that time period as well. But we both, I guess, in retrospect, I think we both would be the breadwinners, I guess, because he technically did have a job the entire time and I had a job the entire time.
Okay, the reason I raised that is when we had our experts, I forget which state it was, one of the experts, mentioned that what they have found is that this whole process, they like to drag it on for 5 years. They very often target the main breadwinner to drain resources. That's why I'm asking these questions. And
I see.
and we know that from the all courts are registered under Dun& Bradstreet. They are a business. There is the court registry investment system. Everything, they're going after your bonds. They're going after monies you don't know they're going. So there's another side to this. So on one hand, you're dealing with the emotional, the human, that issue. For them, they're looking at dollars and cents as a business, and so that's why I was trying to frame who was the main breadwinner and things like that.
I will
There's also
say, Howard, that it does not really make a lot of sense on my case for that regard because he would be making more money than me, and he had been making more money than me the entire time. But his family is very well off. His dad is a multimillionaire, so I don't know if there's something that's like a what would you call it, a offshoot of the normal because of the fact that his parents are very well off.
what was I think what Dr. William Dupree was explaining was that they also go after the target parent. Okay, the target parent is usually the protective parent because it's the parent who's going to fight. So mostly in situations that we're finding is that the children or child ends up with the non-protective, less effective parent, because if there's a battle, that parent isn't going to really put up the fight to be able to spend the money which the court wants it to spend to be able to draw off bonds and then the lawyers. But there's another layer which is a bit of a sadistic one where those people involved derive they derive a pleasure from harming. So the more pleasure will be derived, and I'm talking about all the children advocacy, the lawyers, the judges, particularly the children's agencies, they derive a salivate in a sadistic high, and I really hope that gets communicated worldwide what we're saying right now.
Yes.
And they will get a better high by going to the one parent that is the good parent. And then further to that, we may talk about if there's engineering taking place to the brains of the children, which I'm going to suggest that there is in your case, that your two children, as we've seen from Dr. Gabor Mate and other people, and that they cause the biggest dopamine hit by taking the most effective, closest parent to the kids away. So they get the
Yes.
maximum, and that's what I see here.
Yes, and we were very, very, very close. The kids were extremely close to me. Every single night I'd put them to sleep in their bed for our nighttime routine, and I'd say, 99% of the time they ended up in bed with me that night because they always got out of bed and got into bed with me. They were very, very close to me. In fact, they're still very much wanting to be with me at this point, and it's been 2.5 years.
So the current,
But
I
they're so young.
understand that then you were then charged with felonies for this incident for recutting her hair, and for this bank. And I understand that nobody took the time or even to show the layers and look at this is what happened for this incident. But I further understand that you have no barely any contact with it except for what they're offering to you. And do you want to explain what their court's offering to you right now?
The only thing that they've offered to me, period, whatsoever, has been 1 hour of supervised time a week. The first go around, they made sure I had to drive an hour out of my way to go visit with them for 1 hour. And I actually had the therapist cancel like probably 7 times. So that was 7 weeks where I did not get to see my children. Um, and then the other like 5 times or something like that would have been my co-parent, their dad, canceling, saying, "Oh, sorry, I got to work," or "Oh, the kids are sick," or "Oh, we're out of town," or whatever it would be, something different. So I had about a year of those supervised visits, where nothing happened that was bad at all. Like everything was perfect, and the kids were excited to see me, and we were honestly like everything about those visits should have been a perfect 100% score. Um, Except for it didn't really matter because the guardian ad litem was the one who was running the show, and nobody else said anything or did anything or had any kind of influence whatsoever. The guardian ad litem was the only person doing anything, and she had already decided that I was guilty. What was that, 2.5 years ago? She decided I was guilty right off the bat.
So just for the record, so that as I understand, the government imposes itself in a few different ways to separate to sort of to separate children from parents, and to say that you've been bad, or to go in there and take charge. And one of them is that we've seen Child Protective Services, Children's Aid Society, Family Services, but another one is the Guardian ad litem, which I've seen can be much more, even more brutal, because the
Oh,
Guardian
yes.
ad litem through the child advocacy centers is direct government, direct government. And I also note, can you tell everybody a little bit about what you had in these supervised visits? Was it natural? What's the effect to everybody? What happened?
It was really extremely awkward, and it did not feel comfortable in the least. Like, it was very nerve wracking, and I would equate it to psychological abuse. It's not a comfortable environment. It's not fun to sit there and have to watch everything that you say whenever I don't need to do that because we have freedom of speech. This is America. We have freedom of speech. I shouldn't have to watch what I say, and it's not illegal. But yet here I am, and I'm having to do that, and I have to like phrase everything exactly the way that they want me to, because if I don't, oh my gosh, I'm just like the devil incarnate if I don't say it exactly the way that they want me to say it. It's absolutely retarded and ridiculous and completely violating of my rights and my children's rights. It's absolutely infuriating. I'm sorry, you can tell I'm getting upset.
No, that's
I
okay. No,
apologize.
of course, Colleen, of course. And so just so everybody sees that these are bondicides taking place to the other parent, and then you also get that you get that intervening third party. So when they place the kids, the whole point is that they destroy the bond and have an engineering effect to child and parent. Okay, that's all they need to do. And then wherever they put the child, what they need to do is, it seems is find a place where they know that they're definitely not going to allow the target parent any contact. And they also know there's going to be sufficient training and manipulation and cruelty from that placement, that kid, by the time the children turn 18, won't ever go back to the target parent. And that's what we see. Howard, you had your hand up again.
Okay, so I mean, Colleen, what you're describing, I thought you were describing the other aspect of what this tribunal is dealing with, and that's Norway. So I hope that on the rebroadcast, as Judge Ananda and his wife look at this, and at this particular point you're making, they stop and reflect on what's going on in Norway. If one had the resources, it would be interesting to know some of the main people in Norway, because I'm sure I know in a situation that we became familiar with, somebody who in the States who went into Alberta basically corrupted that so much, an American, and you could it was just incredible to follow the personalities and who. So it would be wonderful to know whether, I'll use the term expression, lineage of the people, because once again I've made reference to Sheila Home, her book, her research, and the breakup of the family and this whole thing is major. It's been planned out, and so therefore it would be wonderful to know. You mentioned, who's the individual in your case, where did they get their training from? Just to keep going backwards, wouldn't it be something to find out if there were any personalities, as is the case in Alberta, where one of the main driving forces there is an American who came up and those things. And there was another case in Ontario where it's big business. These places in which are contracted out to place children, teenagers, they go to school. Everything is dollar and cents. They have budgets. I mean, it's massive. This is an industry. And so anyways, I wanted to pause here, make those comments, and so that when Judge Ananda and others are at this point, they'll realize why I stopped you and why I'm thinking this sounds like Norway. So
Absolutely,
Colleen,
absolutely,
if I-
and
if I-
it does definitely make it sound like that. What's that, Marianne?
I wanted to add something to your story as well. And yes, it's when I've researched, Norway is like the perfected model. Some of the countries or other corporate nations are edging towards Norway, not quite there, because they're having to give the appearance that there's, and we'll get to, and I'm gonna, the appearance that they have justification in doing their bondicide, the debonding. And so at some point, when we get in Norway, they just come, they take, like, done. In your case, here's something I wanted to get very specific into the details of the family extended, the extended family, and how it's being whipped up to create this bondicide. So there's a very tumultuous relationship between you and your children's father, Ben. So that right away sets up that the children's advocacy, the government would want to put them right there, because he's going to train them into basically cruel and hatred of you, to be quite frank. That's what, okay? And on top of it, you add this new love interest, Alex, into this mix, who has her own serious issues to be able to tell the children to call her mother. That's very serious. And you'd wonder in this particular case, if people were experts in child psychology and abuse, would that not be the pivotal point that somebody would say that is really psychological abuse to the children, to have this new woman coming in and asserting that and having the haircut done? And to me, it sounds like you take this extended family dynamic and it's just perfect. It's a perfect fodder from what I'm seeing. Sorry, Colleen.
Well, I agree with you. I was going to add into from a little bit before, and kind of speaking to what Howard is talking about with Norway, and what you were speaking about with how they've got to justify everything. The fact of the matter is that the laws in the United States of America in Missouri, they had absolutely no rights to do any of the things that they've done. They actually did everything to break the law to do this. Everything that they did broke the law. They literally are criminals breaking our laws.
That's interesting.
And I will break this down for you guys.
Yep.
I will break it down for you guys. Basically, what the statutes say is you are absolutely not allowed to sever a parental tie to their children without clear and convincing written judgment from a judge, like with evidence on paper. They have come to the conclusion of that this person is unfit and unqualified. They have to be unfit and unqualified before you can ever destroy their bond with each other, before you can sever that tie, before you can take them away, before you can do any of that. You cannot, without clear and convincing evidence written by a judge, because he's looked at it and actually decided upon evidence that they are unfit and unqualified. And that never happened. It never happened. And so this entire time, they have literally been completely illegally destroying my children and my life, and they are criminals.
Colleen, I'd like to add to that a little bit, that according to the law and natural law, there is nothing, and what this tribunal is seeking, there is no reason for the state to ever getting involved, even clear and convincing evidence. It has no business, period. Zero tolerance. It does not get involved, even because it's when the state is given that little door opening that
then they take a mile.
That's
absolutely right.
It can destroy the bond based on this and this. I'm going to suggest there be absolutely no leeway to have any state, because this is how they keep getting in. This is now, just before you go, can you just tell everybody the current situation right now? Would you be able to share that with everybody?
Sure. And I did want to just add to what you're saying is that, like, to be honest, like, if a child is being abused and being hurt by their parents, then it's going to be obvious. And a lot of people in the community are probably going to do things to reach out to that child to help them. The state isn't necessary. They're completely unnecessary. They're purposely doing this for money because it's a business. But my current situation right now, as it stands, is that I sued the guardian ad litem that assumed I was guilty and violated all my constitutional rights. I sued her and got her thrown out of my case. And then the judge, in his infinite wisdom, decided that we still need to have a guardian ad litem just because there was an accusation. An accusation was made. We have to have one. And so I put in, for that to not be the case, I put in a motion that said I reject this. I will not pay for a guardian ad litem, and I will not do one. It's not necessary. She's not even capable. They're not even capable of doing the job. They don't have the qualifications. So I put in all that and how it's a burden. It's a compelled speech. It's compelled speech. So it's illegal. And so even with all that, this guardian ad litem is still trying to act like she's going to tell me what to do, even though everything I'm telling her is proper and just, and that they're the ones who are breaking the law. She is continuing to try to get me to participate in supervised visitation. I gave her access to my therapist, and her and the therapist talked about how a lot of different things, to be honest with you, like a lot of different things. They talked about a lot, and I don't necessarily want to get into all of it right now. But the end and short of it is that this guardian ad litem, based off of my therapist talking to her, is looking at making a contract, a written contract with me, that I will do only 1 month worth of supervised visits, and at that point in time, will go to trial, which is in December. And that way she can go ahead and say that I've had some contact with my children. So it'll look good for the judge, so she can go ahead and recommend 50-50 custody. So that's what she's saying that she wants to do. And my therapist said that she is also looking at Ben in an unfavorable light, saying that she does really see him being an alienator and that he is actually harming the children. That's what it seems to be what she's saying. And I don't know enough yet to know whether or not this woman is literally going to actually be a good actor and understand the problem, but there is some slight glimmers of hope, I suppose.
Well, I think I would probably say I'm going to suggest that because this is an active, ongoing case, you may not be comfortable in giving her name or working with that. And maybe what we can do, I will, if I may, in her
I will give her name.
background.
I don't mind.
Since
I'll
you
give
have
her
the
name.
same
I don't
name
mind
as
at all.
Okay, so Ms. Jordan, I have read some. Ms. Jordan, who is supposedly in the position of unbiased, neutral authority, okay? Her background, she has, I think she's been practicing for 2 years, maybe 3.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no
Yeah.
experience there. And then on top of it, from what I read, she's got a background as having been, it looks like a foster child herself, and she's a foster parent advocating for the foster system. So let me clarify the bias here, that if she is coming from that system, having to being a kid herself and instilled strange, twisted loyalty to the state as a nanny, and then carrying on the crime syndicate, does that is she in neutral? You know, these are the concerns, but I also see that you're in a position where you don't know, and at this point, you know, I appreciate your kids are just dangling there. You want to do the best for your kids, so we
Yeah.
respect whatever decision you make.
And I guess I'm kind of just, wanting to have some hope and wanting to have some faith, um, that God can work miracles and move mountains, and that, like, even though this woman may have been a foster kid, I don't know that for sure. But I do know she was a foster mom and she's adopted a baby. So I do know that for 100% fact that she does not have the ability to have children, and she does adopt, or she has adopted, and she's done foster care. So, I want to have faith that she is looking at this from a neutral perspective and seeing the damage that has happened because of illegal actions by the state, and for the psychological abuse that my co-parent did to our children. I really want to believe that she's looking to fix the issues going on with families. I want to believe that everybody that doesn't understand what's happening in the system are actually red-blooded Americans and really want us to continue having our Constitution, our freedoms. And I really, really hope that she is actually able to, deal with that, because British Associated Registry does not belong in fucking America. Okay? Britain doesn't belong in America. We threw them out. And you do not need to be in our judicial branch, Britain. You do not need to be there. You are absolutely not welcome. And so I hope that she will turn her allegiance back to America and back to our families. That's really my hope.
Well, thank you, Colleen, for sharing that. I know that Felix Torres has joined us, and I don't think you have as much time as we'd hoped, but I wonder, Felix, if you could possibly start to give your story. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for you to just state your full name for the record and to affirm that you are going to tell the truth. And I think you're going to tell a very sad story about your son. Go ahead, Felix. Unmute. You're muted. You're muted. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. How's that? My name is Felix Mavro Torres. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and my son lives in Denver, Colorado. Um, um, I'm going to be testifying and telling the truth about my situation, where I've lost my son or don't have any rights to see my son. My son is 6 years old. I was married for a short period of time, 6 months. It was a very abusive relationship, emotionally abusive relationship by his mother. His mother is a pastor, and for the first 4 years of our son's life, she was attending Denver Seminary and abusing her own son. So what she did was basically planned it, married me to do exactly what she's doing, and so the law in Colorado states that if a couple is not married when the child is born, 100% custody goes to the mother. So we divorced before the child was born. So I didn't go, well, I did research before I went to family court, and all the research said that I would be bankrupt, and that they would, especially if you own a business, and I'm self-employed, so I was not going to step into a court in Colorado unless I was really prepared. And I tried doing it pro se. I spoke to at least 15 attorneys, firms and attorneys, and then 2 judges, retired judges. And what I came to figure out is that the system was corrupt, but I've come to realize that it's really, really corrupt. It's not. It's what I learned early on is nothing compared to the corruption that exists. Hearing all these stories from the parents with Hope in Darkness. So I finally went into court after I met Hope in Darkness, which was maybe 3 years ago, 4, and I submitted a 220-page motion that explained learning theory, what damage was being done to the father, to the son, to the child, and what remedies we really needed in order to rescue Mateo, is his name, my son, from this abuse. And the court ignored it, and basically where it was speaking to my ex about her parenting plan. So they wanted me to go into supervised visitations. I refused to do that because I have a right to have a relationship with my son under the First and 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and it's been upheld by the North Carolina Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court. And needless to say, the judge ignored my motion, ignored anything that I asked or said, and I asserted my 14th Amendment, and she said I needed to prove my financial worthiness first, and wanted to appoint a guardian ad litem at $300 an hour. And she wanted me to fill out a form that it stated my income, my expenses, and what assets I had that could be converted into cash. And I was like, I can't sign this. They're going to bankrupt me. When she ignored everything I said, and I asked to see my son under the 14th Amendment, she ignored that. And so I knew I was the target, and I was not going to, it was not going to fare well for me in family court. So within 2 weeks, we filed a federal lawsuit in the district court in Colorado, and against the governor of Colorado, the court, the judge, and my ex, for $15 million. And they ignored that for 10 months, and I filed a second lawsuit on Mateo's behalf, and that's when they dismissed my first lawsuit, and then they dismissed the second one. And so we're in appeals right now, and the Court of Appeals rejected my first appeal, and so they've been sitting on the second motion we submitted, or response that we submitted, for months now, and we've kind of pinned them into a corner. But they don't. It seems like the federal court is just as corrupt as the state family court, and they're all. It seems like the job of the federal court is to protect the state from the people, and so the attorney general, in my case, is arguing that my civil rights should be denied. And all of these individuals, from the governor, the judge, and the attorney general, they've all taken an oath to defend, protect, and support the Constitution, and none of them are doing that. So all of them are in violation of their oath as attorneys, and they're abusing the law, which is the Constitution. And they convolute everything. The federal court is convoluting my responses and just interjecting nonsense of how they are interpreting my case as a parental issue, and that they don't entertain any or have anything to do with parental cases, but my case in it, we've stated it very clear, at least 10 times, that my case is a civil rights issue, and it's no longer a parental issue. It's a civil rights issue because my First and 14th Amendments are being violated in the state of Colorado, and their statutes and codes violate the Constitution. So that means that the state legislature in Colorado is violating the Constitution, and so is U.S. Congress by passing Title IV D and E, which violates the Constitution.
Can I just I just wanted to give a frame, and I know that Howard has a question. So from what I gather, you were married. The marriage, you're married to the mom, and
Correct.
Mom got pregnant. The relationship had so many problems that there was a divorce that happened before your son was born.
Correct.
And then then she quickly went over to the court and established, am I correct, that she would get full custody and use that in something in the Colorado law that says that if they're not married, full custody goes to mom? Is that
Yeah,
what
she actually was advocating for full custody way before. I mean, the month she was pregnant, that she found out she was pregnant. We separated in December, and that's when we married in June of 2019, no 18, and we divorced, or we separated December 2018. 2019 of January, she told me she was pregnant, and in that month, she or shortly after, she wrote our counselor. We were attending counseling, that she didn't care if I wanted to see my son every week. She wanted full custody, and she was trying to get the counselor to write a letter, in support of her having full custody, but the counselor wouldn't. So that's kind of what happened with that. And I think the way she learned all this is when I met her, she was on a board of a family law nonprofit. It's called the Justice and Mercy Legal Aid Center in Denver, Colorado, JAMLAC for short. And she was a board member. And I think that's where she learned how to do this. And I think she intentionally got on that board, and she donates money because her parenting plan was, spot on as far as what family court does to destroy a family. They wanted me to take classes to learn how to communicate with her. And you can't really communicate with the narcissist because you can never rationalize or come to any type of agreement or resolution with the narcissist. They intentionally continue the abuse and the conflict. So that's kind of how I see it, that it was planned, she prepared for it, and this is intentional.
Yeah, I want to make one comment, and then Howard, is that what kind of a parent or mother in this case goes out of her way to deny her son to have his father? What does that say about the mother and her capacities? I mean, is that not absolute, the worst, highest abuse that could possibly be?
Yeah. And she's using them as a weapon.
Yeah.
And she's using them, and I've sent her a lot of research on this from Cornell University and other universities of the damage. It puts them at every statistical disadvantage in life when you keep a child from a parent, especially a fit and qualified parent. And she doesn't care. Her intention is to just continue abusing me because she can't control me and can't get me to do what she wants me to do. And it's all about control for them, and they'll use anything, any means they have to punish you.
Yeah, it seems that way in a sadistic. Howard, do you want to, you had a question for Felix?
Yeah, a couple. So you actually answered the first one. So when your wife became pregnant, it was in Colorado? Because you
No, it was
mentioned,
in New Mexico.
oh, okay. Okay, that's important for me. So if I were to ask you, do you think she already had a plan in mind
Yes.
to go back to Denver?
Yes. She never unpacked any of her boxes, and she was always threatening to go back. And the other thing that I left out is even though she was a pastor, acting as a pastor, was attending Denver Seminary, she married me with a married boyfriend. I didn't know she had a boyfriend, and he's married. And there was infidelity during the marriage within the short 6 months. So, yeah.
Okay, so now my next question is, were you on the Zoom call with James in the group 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
You were on that?
Yes.
Okay, and then because obviously, are you working through a lawyer right now in terms of what you're doing?
No. Pro se.
Okay, okay, now, in terms of what I'm learning, do you have your court and what's before your court bonded?
Do I have it bonded?
Yes.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, it means unless you put a bond of unconditional amounts of money, the way remember, courts are incorporated. You can find the one you're before under Dun and Bradstreet. They're a business, they're a bank. And the only thing that really talks in terms of admiral maritime law is basically contract and equity. And so therefore, if you go before a court, any of us go before a court, Canada, the US, without a bond on the case, you're not going to get anywhere.
Mm.
It's absolutely important. James, hopefully that's going to go ahead Tuesday, and you're going to come on board. And I know that James is open to going one-on-one and working with you all. You mentioned you took action against the governor and two others. He's lean 19 all the way from the governor in Michigan all the way down to 4 judges, police officers, and member of the state legislature now, and the amount is for over 4 billion. So having said that, I'm going to find a link. I'm going to put it in the chat. It's a 1 hour interview by someone whose father was a judge. He grew up learning everything about the court system. And in that 1 hour presentation, everything you're going to need to know to frame why things may or may not be working out for any of you before the courts is there. So I'm going to actually go take my video off. I'm going to go into my research. I'm going to find it and put it in the chat. And all of you, I think actually it was sent to all of you via James, but we'll do it again. It's so important.
If you
And
could, or even also an email, Howard. However, like I have trouble getting through the chat, but if you're able to send that in
oh,
email.
there's only 2 in the chat now, so I'll put a link and I'll send it later so
Okay.
you can send out, Marianne,
Okay,
to
thank you.
your group. But it's really important to understand what you have to do, how judges are thinking, and how do you actually deal with a corrupt system. And here's the other thing that I've just learned in the last 2 weeks. When we say going to court, the paperwork, the affidavits, and everything you submit is the court. Your paperwork basically is the court. And so when you realize that, then you have to work backwards to know what do I have to do to make that happen. The bond issue is really important. And when you know how to bond, you actually create the bond. Remember, James, your signature is the creation of money. So, for example, in Ottawa, there's an individual, we've mentioned his name. He put a $200 million bond and he's fighting a major bank up here in Canada. That 200 million is now on the open market because everything gets securitized behind your back. He did an audit, find out that 200 million is now 500 million. And it gets even better. Here in Canada, your Internal Revenue Department, up here we have what is called the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, and they wanted $104 million of back taxes off of that. And you know how he paid for them? He created a bond and submitted it because everything goes through the Federal Reserve. And you were also sent, all of you, to see the 20-minute video by Mickey Clan, Make the U.S. Treasury Your Friend. So the entity that will be going after the TD Bank here in Canada will not be our courts, it will be the U.S. Treasury on Form 1099-B, which is the audit. So they will be auditing this bank for tax evasion on the 500 million. And they will be the heavy hand in the whole remedy situation. So come back on Tuesday because James knows all of this as well. And so I'm just saying, Felix, find out whether or not, if you don't have a bond on your court number now, that's a must do. And on Tuesday, you can ask James about that one. He's more of an expert. I don't profess to know a lot, but I can frame certain things. I've been doing this for about 3 years, and I'm gifted in the sense that I have wonderful people who are on the leading edge. So I get little bits of information here and there. I'm able to retain some of it, enough to say to you right now and ask the question, are you bonded? And knowing when you say you don't know or you're not, you do not have a real good chance before any of you before a court.
Howard, in Felix's case, though, Felix is a case where even though subsequent to what happened, all the alienation, he went and filed in court. When he didn't, I don't believe there was there a family court that decided, like, how did that work, Felix, before, like, in for her to get the custody? Did she go in and make an application and you were a respondent?
Oh,
She,
well, what happened is, so as soon as we signed the divorce papers, she didn't want to talk to me anymore, because she needed to take the son, right? She wanted to keep him full time, which she did. And so she left me off the birth certificate. She gave my son her ex-husband's last name. And so she didn't tell me when he was born, and she wouldn't answer that question for me. And so, like a week a week or so after, she sent a picture to my sister that he was born, and so then I flew to Denver to see him 3 weeks after he was born, and she refused to let me see him. And so at that day, which was September 4th, he was born on August 11th. I went on September 4th. I went immediately to Human Services to file for paternity, and that took 4 months, and I got myself on the birth certificate, and she refused child support, which she actually did me a great favor by doing that, because I would be bankrupt by now if she would have taken the child support. I didn't know I was walking into this hornet's nest of corruption.
So she wanted your son, but she wasn't, as a deliberate tactical move, she didn't ask for child support because that might give you more. And again, like you look at what kind of a parent, mother or father would do this
Yeah,
to alienate. This is what's just so mind-boggling, and yet this is the fit parent who's raising your son is somebody who went to the extremes of causing a mind a brain it's a problem with dopamine production. So when you separate a child from a parent, as Dr. Gabramate explains, you create a distortion in the brain and to the child. I mean, if there isn't child abuse, that's physical child abuse. So your son, like many of the children, is suffering and will always suffer. And so, what kind of a human being need along a parent who has that has them would do such a thing? Like it's mind-boggling, and yet we live in an inversion going on. Um, and I know that subsequent to that, you've taken you then tried to go into to the federal court to have your rights. It violates the Constitution what's happened, and to have your rights recognized, and they wouldn't even. So it's all. So what you see is this family court, which I'm going to suggest is a crime syndicate. That's what James. We'll call him James Bond, right? Because James has got the bonds. So that's what James Bond is explaining. So the crime syndicate, which is all criminal in this family court, what happened supersedes your constitutional rights. So what
yeah,
does that tell us about the height of these criminals, the organized crime on the child debonding? Pretty high. These guys
yeah.
are like pretty thick up in the system for.
Yeah, and it's evil, and I don't understand how these individuals can sleep at night knowing that they're destroying children's lives, they're trafficking children. This is when you monetize a child, you're trafficking that child. And that's what the family court and the federal courts are doing. They're trafficking children. And there's a war
Yep.
against the children in not just in the United States, in Canada and around the world. So there's a war against children and families.
Oh
And
yes,
and
we
what
talk about.
I've learned is that they say in the United States we're the freest country in the world until you have a child.
Yeah, no,
You lose the freedom.
that's what I mean. Even having such a department as Human Services should clue us in that we as human beings are chattel, we are livestock.
Yeah,
And if and I think one of the things also is that it seems like at the top they're having deals to allow countries to deal with their own livestock. That's why it's very difficult. So to this day, have you any contact like with Mateus?
no, she refuses to answer any emails. And when I would drive 14 hours to see him, 9 hours. That's all she would let me see him, 3 hours a day. And then I would so um and then sometimes she would reduce it to like 1 hour, or reduce it by an hour, so I'd only see him 2 hours. And then it was based on her mom's schedule, not my schedule. And I was willing to drive there and take care of him during the day for a week at a time, and she wouldn't allow it. And I didn't have any rights at that time because, well, I still don't have any rights. Because first, I didn't have any rights because I wasn't on the birth certificate. And then second, when I did get myself on the birth certificate, the statute, and it's not a law, it's a statute in Colorado, says I have no right. So if I go take my son, I'm going to get arrested. And so I have not, I made a conscious decision not to play the game of abusing my son, because that's all it is to her, is a game. And she's using him as a tug of war toy, basically, as property and as a weapon. And so I chose that I would stay away in order to protect him from being used as a tug of war toy, and to be subjected to all the abuse that was coming, from the courts, from the supervised visitations, because those supervised visitations are very damaging to a child, and it's just telling the child there's something wrong with his parent, his father, in my case. And so, no, I haven't seen him. She will not send me any information, and it's because she can't control, right? And so that's why she was involving my sister, and she was involving friends, and so she kept trying to figure out ways to get back into my life, but I didn't want anything to do with this evil person, and she's extremely dysfunctional to be doing this. Every parent that does this to a child is extremely dysfunctional and evil.
Yeah, that's the thing that I wanted to just point out too, is that um, we see an interesting pattern here where, mom should be is family, and yet the very dynamic in the family seems to be played upon so that you've been debonded physically from your like sorry they're committing what I call bondicide, where they do everything, and it's done everything in their power to separate and alienate you from your son. They
Yeah.
can never actually debond. That DNA bond is there forever, so they
Yeah.
can't actually do it, but
No.
they're trying to, and then they're engineering something that's extremely torturous and painful for your son, for you. And this is what we're going at, because the bond can never be destroyed.
No.
It can't. But the torture and the engineering that you're going through, and it seems like she has no like to dictate how long you spend with your son. You didn't do anything for anybody to have even raised an eyebrow of why you would be denied time with.
Yeah. It was really odd being in that relationship. I never knew people like her existed that were so evil and dysfunctional, and that fabricated so many things. And everything was that she would argue about, accuse me of. I was like, what? There's something really wrong here. She's a pastor. She's cheating. Everything's my fault. She starts an argument from nothing, and it's my fault. And then she would blame me for everything, and that I was a bad person. And I'm like, where is all this coming from? But that's the world they live in. They can't deal with reality, and so they fabricate everything. And it's not, their reality is not like our reality. And they, what they do is intentional. It has purpose, and that purpose is to punish somebody. It's sadistic because they get enjoyment and entertainment out of punishing somebody. And that was the other reason I stayed away, is that I didn't want her to get the gratification of punishing me using my own son. And they'll use anybody and everybody.
Yes.
She used, even though she hasn't alienated me from, well, she's alienated me from my son, but she hasn't, as far as I know, she hasn't started bad mouthing me, but she probably has. But she did that with her eldest son. She had when we were married, he was 16, and he and I had a good relationship, and he knows it. And there's even a text where he thanks me for everything I did for him. And then like a month later, he's like, screw you, I don't want to talk to you, blah blah blah. And that was she. So she alienated me from her son, And that was because he wanted to know what was going to happen in the relationship because they had moved back, and he kept, like, when my son was born, he texted me and told me it's a boy, or it was going to be a boy. He hadn't been born yet, and I said um, that I forget how it went, but she had told my sister that he was a boy. He was going to be a boy, and when her son told me, I said I know because she told my sister, and she goes, no, she doesn't know. And I said, well, she told my sister it's a boy. So there was a lot of lies to him, and so she had to. The one thing I noticed, and this is how evil they are. The one thing I noticed was when we were in Albuquerque and they were living with me, that her son and I had a good relationship, and I think that through it it became problematic for her to leave because she had to convince him I was an evil and bad person. And so every evening she would go to his room and talk to him. And one day I listened in, and she was trying to destroy that relationship between he and I. And she finally was successful. And the reason she finally did it was when he asked me what I was going to do, and I said I couldn't go back to that relationship because his mother wasn't honoring the sanctity of marriage. And when that's what makes her angry. And that was the day I told the judge that I told the judge when we went. I did a name change, pro se, to get my name on the birth certificate, and she was telling the judge lies about me, and I just told the judge the reason we're not married is plain and simple. She's having affairs and is a pastor. And that day is when she decided to cut me off completely and said I needed a court order in order to see my son. And it angers her when I say the truth, and that is the absolute truth, that she was having affairs.
Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And well, it just I'm trying to understand. So the state gains because your son, they see somehow there's a it has to intervene. It's the debonding. There's a custody switch, so she gains at a level as well as a higher level of gain in a sadistic way of salivating over the pain and anguish. Right, that's
Yeah.
what I see to you. And I also note something else. And so, Howard, I know you got your hand up. I also note something else because it is cases where the child is really really young, where parents are more ferocious than you can ever imagine because they know that the child's growth is stunted as per the shell shock of losing your parent at that point. So if I think it was 6 months, so in many
Yeah.
ways your son is stunted at 6 months, and you as a father have that instinct to know that, and this is why you've been, I mean, fighting as hard as you are. I mean, I understand you
Yeah.
got a documentary that you put out too.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of the people. I've done some on it too, for being interviewed, and
Yeah.
I think that, as the effect of the parents, I wanted to just show for the tribunal is that the kids we're going to see are having a distortion in the brain because of the inability to produce dopamine when they're separated from a parent, and that's here. And for the parent is continually going around like a hamster because it's counter instinct to just go forward. Any good parent doesn't just go forward. You have to get your child, because your child's in a house on fire. And what do? You let your child burn? You don't. And the problem is that in your case, Felix, like they've shown, the court's shown itself out to the federal level that it isn't even prepared to honor the law or your constitutional rights above its own crimes that it's committing to
Yeah.
steal the children. And
And they
Howard,
are crimes. Yeah, they are crimes.
yes, Howard, you had your hand up. Did you still want to ask a question? Oh, you're muted.
Yes. Yeah, several things are coming to mind. So the original condition of your wife, or alleged condition that you describe, what is that again, Felix? Or your former wife?
Ask that question again, please.
You mentioned you alluded to a type of condition that she has, and um, or seems to denote. And I forgot the terminology of. It's a very common. I know.
Narcissism? Is it narcissism?
Yes, that's it. Narcissism. I actually, in my life, um, and I'll say my life and my wife's life, we have people in our life um, where that individual has caused a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, I don't think you use this term expressively, but is there anything? One of the things that is characteristic of that is gaslighting. So is there anything to do with gaslighting that you can share with it, just as an example? I'd like to
Yeah.
put it on the record.
Yeah, she actually started bad mouthing me and slandering me to her family before we married. I've come to find out. And it was constant gaslighting, constant every evening. I was like, and you know what happened is like as soon as she moved in and and had full reign of the house, and that's when she kind of escalated the conflict and the gaslighting, and um, it was she was always blaming me for everything, and that I was a bad person. Like one time, uh, she had a drink every evening, and her son brought that to her attention, and so she told me, "Oh, can you help me not drink wine and remind me not to drink?" And I was like, "Wow, you need someone to remind me not to drink." But anyway, so one day she asked me if I wanted a glass of wine, and I said, "No, I don't want a glass of wine." I said, "I thought you didn't want to drink." Wow, she went off on me and just exploded. And then like Dr. Bill says, it's always tone and attitude, right? And so she went to tone, and when they don't have anything to really blame you for, it goes to tone and attitude. And so it was constant gaslighting with everything. If it wasn't that, it was that I my friends, they try isolating you. I never wanted to do anything with my friends because she didn't like them because they did this or they did that, or they were this or they were that, and they only like to associate with people that they know they can control and manipulate. That's how insecure they are. They're extremely insecure people. They 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 like you for who you are, but then that makes them really insecure because they don't have the skills. Like in her case, she lies about everything, and nothing. It's really sad. I don't even know anything about her, except where she lived, what she did for a living, what she drove, who her family was. Aside from that, everything's a lie.
It's just a crying shame that somebody who would deny you the relationship that she's got your son. And it also seems like she carried out all the problems and like all of the anger and rage from her relationship. She's using this situation with your son to be able to get out more of her rage. Like it's
Yeah.
become a platform. And
And go ahead.
yeah, no, you go ahead.
Yeah, the rage. God, it was constant raging, and I knew I was in trouble when when we went to go see her father before the wedding, and he told us, or he told her from across the table, "It's best you don't invite me to your wedding for whatever." I don't know what, she never told me what the conflict was. She always, when they have conflict with other people, they always minimize it, and they never tell you what it is. And so I never knew what that was, but I asked her, have you dealt with your issue with your father? Are you going to deal with it? Because I knew that was going to be a problem in the marriage. And sure enough, it's like that rage that of her not having that connection with the parent came out on me, and she's taking it out on her son too. So, she has these unresolved issues and is in denial that these issues impact her life. And the rage is astonishing. Holy cow. And they only do it, like Dr. Bill says, behind closed doors. They don't do it in front of people. So people believe them. And that's why she has, in my opinion, the title of pastor, because that gives her the platform to hide it, and also being on that board of the family law nonprofit, it gives her the knowledge and the platform and probably the legal assistance to do what she has. And then family court is also giving her a platform to continue the abuse that she does on people. And she just doesn't. She just doesn't do it to me. She did it to her ex-husband. She did it to her older son. I see it now. How he has a fractured uh, relationship with his father, and it would be really interesting if her son, her eldest son, would have a heart-to-heart conversation with his father of why their relationship is fractured. I think he would find out a lot about what his mother did.
Yeah.
Or does.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
always need a victim. They always need a victim. And they don't just have one, they have multiple.
I see a commonality in your case to the case of Marianne Petrie, who will be given, her testimony was done pre-recorded for judges. And in Marianne Petrie's uh, testimony, she explains that the girlfriend or new wife to the father of her children, right, that she split up from, works in the court. And I'm thinking that that the mom to Mateus also has inroads in a nonprofit. So
Yep.
it's almost as if it's a cult or a club. And so if she asked, listen, don't let me through in what I want to do because I'm part of your club and cult. So it was
Yeah.
like a cult favor.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
She was a nonprofit, right?
Nonprofit. Yeah. And surprisingly, her and the court or the state, the attorney, none of them responded on time.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't seem. Keep going.
Yeah, none of them responded on time, and so we filed for a default, and the federal court honored it. They honored the late response, and they denied my default judgment, and so that is happening in multiple states where when there's a default judgment against the state, the federal court allows it, and so the federal court is directly tied to this abuse, and there's no other word for it. It's abuse. The law is very clear and simple. The legal system is not, and the court uses the legal system to confuse and deny your civil rights.
And to do this, the engineering to father and son, I'd say it's a war crime, and that's what I think part of what I'm trying to establish in this tribunal.
And it is a war against our families and against our children on multiple levels. I would hate to be a child today.
Yeah, an interesting point that you make again about our families, because it's not about the sanctity of the family. The family itself is attacking itself. This is mom to dad. You see that? Colleen had that too. Mom to dad. Lindsay had that. Her sister and her father to her. So what the extended family is orchestrating itself to beat itself in and have its own dynamics, and like in a jail cell, or sorry, in a prison, the inmates have their own rules, the families have their own rules. It's almost like nobody wanted to get into mess with the mom of Matthias because she had a nonprofit and she wanted a certain thing, and it's completely against the law, and they're even not even following their rules. The federal court didn't allow the late response. You can see the crime syndicate, all because at some level they're making such enormous profit from your son, and at another level there's an enormous salivating in a sadistic way of the suffering. Howard, you had your hand up. Did you want to?
Yes. Okay. So, just if I may make a couple of comments. So, Felix, as you were ending with the court, and I want to bring in the last words from Colleen when she mentioned the bar. Um, and if you listened to Trump a little over a week ago when he addressed the admirals and generals, he said we're going back to common law. We're going to get rid of the maritime law in this country. And so, in as everyone's going forward with me, I distinguish between legal and lawful. Most things facing all of us are statutes. They're not, it's not law, it's statutes.
Right.
And when you go into a statute court, you have no rights. And that's intentional. And so I've been to court enough with enough people where the last group I've been to, what they do when they go into court is they say, what court and what jurisdiction am I under? And they establish it always. Because they're very tricky. They can put you anywhere. And if the court is recessed, when we come back, they will ask again. Because unless you know venue, if you're in the wrong venue, you have, once again, that's two strikes against you. So I'm just, just mentioning that because I've been to court 23 times in 2 years.
Wow.
And so you get to know the games which are being played a little bit. You see it, you observe it. You see people who have wisened up and know what they're up against. And anyway, so I just tossed that forward. So all of you are not before lawful courts, you're before statute courts,
Correct.
right? So I just wanted to clarify that. So I yield.
Yeah, no, I think what we're seeing is in all these cases, there isn't anything lawful or fair going on. It's a pure crime, and it's just a matter of how they can balance and juggle a fine craft. I use the word craft, not art, craft. How they can craft the appearance that what they're doing is good, and nobody will raise huge objection to it, and yet they know it's justified, they'll call it, but it's not. Like, I mean, in Felix's case, it's justified because there's a law in Colorado, or a statute in Colorado, to supersede mom's rights over dad's, and you can completely take dad out of the picture. It's beyond a war crime.
Well, actually, Marianne, at the beginning, Felix said there were at the Supreme Court level, and there was one other state you mentioned.
North Carolina.
Yeah. So to go against that, I mean, that's pretty in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there must be redress somewhere for that.
Yeah. Well, you would think, I think at this point, yeah, Felix is just, his case is completely reflective of the crime syndicate. I don't know what else to say. It's just, it's almost getting silly to see some of these cases that are just so overt. I mean, it's ludicrous. In Felix's case, it's not even that there's a question that he might have um, uh, done anything or taken a drink of alcohol. Nothing. This wasn't even about it. It's just, ha ha, look, I got this statute. And so I win. It was just and so a child's life and Felix's life, because it's all consuming. Like, Felix, you've dedicated your whole life, as all of us have as parents, right? To just doing what you can, because it's counter instinct not to. It's counter instinct to just sit there and let it happen, because your son is absolutely suffering without you every day, and he thinks
Every day.
about you, Felix. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, every day he's looking for me,
Absolutely.
wondering where I'm at. And I saw him for a brief, maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
And when I would leave, I would tell him that I would be back and that it wasn't his fault. I would tell him that every day, every time I'd see him. And another reason I decided not to participate in the with her games anymore. Well, she refused to let me see him, but that last day I saw him, we had that name change court, and I only saw him for a day. I mean, an hour, because it was during COVID, so I had to go to the hotel and get on the phone to have the court hearing, and that look of disappointment on his face just broke my heart. And I said, I can't do this to him. I can't.
You know, that I just want to note something about the name change. So she initiated the name change? Did
I
she?
did. I did.
No, no, but before she took your name out, right? She had
Well,
moved.
she
What
left
does
me
she
off the
do?
birth certificate and
Okay,
gave my son her ex-husband's last name.
I see. I
And
mean,
so
that's
he has a hyphenated name now.
it's
The
interesting
judge
because
allowed her to
yeah,
keep her ex-husband's last name.
must be for an extra unit of account somehow. Somehow you know, at different levels. Somehow I'm not like I haven't really pierced through, and I'm really interested to know what the government gains with with the flipping of the names, because we see that in other parents' cases too, right? They're flipping names around. And you
Mm.
know, for at the level of mom, right? Her gain is to hurt you.
Yeah,
That's all she's doing. But she's hurting your son.
yeah.
And it's I'm very sorry. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. Was there anything else that you wanted to add in, Felix?
No, I think I covered it. Unless anyone has any question.
Have you reached out to her lately? When's the last time?
No, I have not. You know the abuse she inflicts, and I mean it's like talking to a child, and it's not logical. It's not reasonable. I even told her in the letter. I mean that you're just not reasonable, and there's no there's no resolution talking to them because they just spin it and spin it. Like all the time I was with her, when she moved to New Mexico, we never saw eye to eye on anything because you never could. She always had to be the victim, and they always say, well, it's not always. You can't always, you can't use that word always. No, it's always with with these narcissists. They're always the victim. It's never their fault. They don't take responsibility. They don't know how to apologize, and they lack empathy and compassion. And she's trying to convince people that this is love, what she's doing to her son, and it's not love. It's hate and evilness.
Felix, can I ask one more thing just before you
Sure.
go? Your sister, again, she would be direct family for you, and as people consider extended family, what's her attitude? Has she supported you to get to have your son back in your life?
No,
Interesting. Yeah.
I she she her opinion is that, and this is the indoctrination that the government does, is that they they tell the public that in the best interest of the child, which they're using the best interest of the child standard incorrectly, and they tell the public that the child belongs with the mother. When I used to work as an associate dean at a college, and I went to a conference and I heard that the best interest of the child, and that the mother would get the child, that never made sense to me. That was way before I even had a child. That was like 10, 20 years ago. And it still holds true. It doesn't make any sense. And so the best interest of the child should be used on her because she's the abusive one, but the court will never do that. But my sister, I had her meet with Bill and Matt, and we discussed this, and she goes, "Oh, but you're going to take him away from her, from the mother," and she's just not a critical thinker, and she just feels that I'm trying to ruin Vanessa's life. And I'm like, but how am I ruining
Vanessa's
her
already
life by
ruined
trying to
50%.
see my son?
Yeah, that doesn't make any. And the other thing that I think will come up to we'll talk about, as you point out about the term, the best interest of the child. I'm going to suggest that term what it really means and what the court and what the government and its financial bankers see it as. If I'm correct, then it's always in the best interest of the child to debond him, to take custody away from at least one or both parents. Because I'm going to suggest, this is research from Christopher Taylor that was on earlier, is that that is a financial term, and the best way to get interest to make money off the bond is to separate the child from one parent and then draw it into programs and all these sort of routes in different ways, so that the best interest of the child, because this is so horrific to a child to debond them, is completely opposite to the best for a child and completely opposite to the rights of the child. They're full. So, but we just don't understand what the best interest of the child possibly really
No.
means. But
Yeah, and
anyway,
you know, and that's true. And people believe that. Like when I go on dates and I tell women my story, they get angry because they say, "Oh, you're going to take the child away." And it's like, "No, I'm not going to take it. I want 50-50. That's what we should have." But they don't understand that. And I think probably I look back and a lot of the women that have gotten angry with what I'm doing, they themselves were single mothers, and I'm thinking, well, they probably were the alienators at that time, and that's why they get angry because I'm hitting a really soft spot.
yeah,
But
misery likes company, and to justify it to
yeah,
themselves. Well,
so
it is just, it's daunting. And I know that we're all gonna try to keep finding a way to rescue the kids back to have their
yeah.
parents.
Well, and I do know, they've really done a good job of dumbing us down as a society, and it's I really don't I decided that I can't really have this conversation with most people because for one, they don't get it. For two, they don't want to get it, and then they don't understand the issues, and then they want to be an armchair expert when they don't know what they're talking about.
Agree. And I think that they don't understand what's really happening of the family court, and they're not prepared. It's if they're not able to process that and to see it, it's like talking to a brick wall. It's very frustrating because
Right.
you can see it. Well, thank you, Felix,
Thank you all.
for that and for testifying. And I'm going to ask Olga. What I'm going to suggest for the tribunal is I will not give my testimony. I'll go last to let everybody have their chance. So next time we all meet, I think Simone and will give an expert testimony, and then I'll give my story. But I wanted to give the opportunity to Olga because she's been very patient. If you could kindly, I'm going to ask Olga to state your full name and then to affirm that you will tell the truth. Oh, Howard's got his hand up.
Okay, so I'm looking in the chat. So Alfred
Yeah.
basically said we have 1 more hour.
So I thought if we can go for 3/4 of an hour or something, whatever Olga needs, and then
Yes. Yeah.
and then I was thinking that the last session of all of this, Simone will give expertise. I will try to sum mine up in 3/4 of an hour or less. And then we'll see forgery in the frickin' court. So and I think that that gives a nice nugget. I also wanted to talk about the act because I want us all to be mindful of the term family because we're seeing dynamics within the family, so that sanctity of the, like maybe we might talk about sanctity of the bond between child and parent and natural mother and father. That's something we can talk with Alfred and next session. Perhaps Alfred can let us know when he's feeling better, a time to resume. So Olga, if you could just say what your name is and that you can affirm that you're going to tell the truth. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Olga Cherednikova, and I'm going to tell the truth and only truth.
Thank you, Olga. So Olga, you have a daughter. Can you tell everybody her name and her age?
My daughter is Maria Mangino. She is going to be, she's 15 at the moment.
Olga, when's the last time you saw Maria?
I saw her very quickly, almost didn't, over a year and 8 months ago.
Okay. And do you want to, Can you tell the tribunal, I understand that you and your husband had split. Can you tell a little bit of just the background before family court came in, where you and your husband lived and you had your daughter? And just give us very quickly what that would look like before you got invaded.
Uh, he was a bachelor, and I was never married, and we had one only child. We married in another country. He relocated due to his job to the United States. They were seeking for some business, and we lived in Connecticut, where he was born, in the ranch he inherited from his father. So I've it's kind of detected alienation at some stage, which I, after I miscarried the child, I was kind of distraughted and trying to organize the house, and he was kind of noticing me not being the same and started to alienate the child. So, and that was very painful for me. And of course, when you feel something, something not your relation doesn't work the way they're supposed to be, you kind of become more strict with your child. And I think that's where he kind of detected that problem, and kind of started alienating her. And he has been alienated up until since probably she was 3, and till we hardly survived COVID, and that's where it started. So basically, the major issue in the family is not allowing the child to sit at the computer for whole day, 12 hours. And I was trying to say that we have all sorts of things to do, and you're not supposed to sit because it's damaging her. And he is a gamer. He didn't work. He inherited some, he has been working all his life, but he was going to retire, and he inherited from his parents some money. So he was kind of already preparing to retire, and has been playing computer games and involving her into computer games and encouraging that, where I was encouraging to do all sorts of music and classes, and she was happy up until kind of, and skiing up until he became really heavy. Why you wasting your time? You're told what to do, don't do that. And it's kind of became he would tell her behind my back, and I didn't understand what was happening. He would take her away and say, your mama is not good. She's not smart. She's kind of, she just kind of, and she would kind of respond to me in the same way, and I would respond to that in kind of. But we were good. Nevertheless, it was we were a happy family. Nobody would say we had anything. It was just up until one day I slapped him on his cheek for. Basically, it escalated so much, the tension of this computer usage, and so the child got into the on those sites where she would be affected by the all pornography and everything. So, and I was fighting that, and that got heated during the COVID, and basically one day I came to turn the lights off in the child's room, and he was talking over the phone, trying to prepare for a class, but it was already 10:30. It has never been that late. She was talking to a friend, and I said, Maria, you'd better, if you have a class test tomorrow, you'd better go to bed sooner and get up in the morning. Otherwise, you won't remember anything. It's too late. I'll come 3 minutes to turn the lights off. So I came back, and he was sitting there. And when I reached to turn the plug off, he started pushing me out of the door and got physical. So my child lost her friend. They blamed me because of that. And basically, at that point, he decided that he will relocate to another state because if I'm going to file for divorce, so he would lose his assets and he would lose his.
Oh, can I just chime in for a
Yes.
second? I noticed that you refer to Maria sometimes as the child. Is it painful to say her name?
Oh yeah. Just I don't even know. I cannot go. She's in boarding school. I cannot go and look at the site. It's so painful.
Oh no, it's hard to, and because, and I also gather that even prior to to this to the court intervening, it was quite abusive in the relationship, that he had already started to do some, her father, your ex, had already started to set up some kind of cruel behavior even while you were married, like the way, is it that you had her, then you had a miscarriage for a second child? It was after that
For two children, two children. Yes, I had a miscarriage, and I was kind of adjusting to. He was pushing me to go to work, but I was, it was my last chance, and I was trying to make the house comfortable because nobody lived in that house. He was always abroad for all his life, for 30 years, and I needed to kind of juggle everything in family, the child, and trying to search for work and adjust to the society. So everything was new for me. And he thought that I was kind of not kind of a.
so is it fair to say, so it wasn't a great relationship, and when you guys split, that it had a lot of deficiencies and abuse between the two of you, and I'll get to that because I think what we're trying to look at is a pattern and a commonality of different ways that the state goes in to commit a debonding. So many of the cases, as you're aware, Olga, are child protection, and like you've seen with Colleen, or you saw with Lindsay, or with Chris, and you've heard with mine, is that's a really simple, easy one where the state goes in and deems you not a good parent. But I'm seeing cases like yours and Felix's where the debonding is kind of a little bit more intricate, where the family court uses its advantages. So when I understand that when you separated, you then took this to a court. Did you go into court?
We didn't separate. It was kind of, he was doing it behind my back. I'm kind of reflecting on everything now. So what was happening, but on the surface, we were a happy family up until that one day I slapped him on his cheek because I was moving the storage cabinet and he didn't help me. I asked him once, I asked him twice, and he came for an ice cream, so he doesn't have a time to help me. And I was asking him, please help me with Maria to take her out whilst I'm finishing the garage. And he started saying that he has a video on me that I was chasing Maria down the stairs, and at that time I was so angry, I just kind of slapped him, and he was saying, "What are you talking about? Which video?" So police came and basically arrested, put a temporary restraining order on me.
Can you go back? Can you go through? Can you take that through this a little slower there? What happened for him to call the police?
A slap on the cheek.
You slapped her on the cheek, Maria?
Slap him.
You slapped him on the cheek.
Yes.
So he called the police
he ran to call the police. Yes, he ran to call the police. So he's first. To call police, but when police came, he said nothing happened. But I told police that I slapped him on his cheek, and that's apparently was a kind of a violation. And they asked me to stay away from the house for 3 days. But I went on a program, completed the program, and he should complete the program because
What program did you have to?
It's kind of an anger management program.
Who asked? Who forced
it's part of the code when they when I, because I self-incriminated myself, so basically they tell me to go and do that program. So I did that program, but then next time when I came to turn the light off, that was like already a year after my slap on the cheek, he became physical So, and he was afraid that I will report him. So he decided to sell the house and relocate. So get rid of any assets, so I do not have anything, and basically push me out of the country. So, and that's again, I'm reflecting now. That's what's happening. I was selling the house. He was. He relocated with the child to a new home, was supposed to be North Carolina. But when I came, like 2 months, because I was, doing the house preparation for sale and walk-ins, he said, if you do not come, if you do not stay with us tonight, I will be able to divorce, just living separately in a year.
Mhm.
Okay, I filed for divorce, ran to Connecticut, filed for divorce in Connecticut, and we signed an agreement. I signed for filed for physical custody, was granted physical custody. We signed a pendentility agreement that everyone will get therapy and will kind of mediate. And that was our mediation plan. And by like in 6 months, we'll see, maybe we can kind of get back together, because since that COVID, it was tension was ever so high. So I completed the courses at MIT, and I found a job. And in July 2023, he filed for full custody in North Carolina. So we had an agreement. We had mediation going on in Connecticut. I obtained physical custody, established jurisdiction, basically stopped him. We had that kind of agreed. Now he found a lawyer which told him, so basically that North Carolina or Connecticut laws do not apply. I know the judge. We will see what we can do. If you want, we can basically get you more advantageous rights than if you would be in Connecticut. And it is, of course, it would come for a fee. So attorney was looking for a better fee, for a higher retainer, offering judicial leniency and selling basically forum shopping services. So whilst we were having mediation, he stopped letting me see the child. And I would come, and he would come up with all sorts of excuses. She doesn't want to see you. She basically. But he told me at the beginning, then when I came, was selling the house, that if the child is alienated, the child will not want to see you. Basically, that's kind of a alienation is a thing they're using as a part of the scheme, I understand here. So they're using temporary restraining orders. When I left, coming to my own house to see my family and child, whilst I was selling the house in Connecticut to see how my family in Carolina doing. After I left, he filed a restraining order on me, which was never served, which was never granted. So I understand, looking back now, that attorney who filed for full custody in North Carolina, offering public illicit services of forum shopping, basically uses temporary restraining order, false temporary restraining orders, as part of his script, as well as explaining how to alienate, what to do, so the child would not want to stay with the other parent.
Olga, just so I can get clear for the tribunal, who filed the restraining order?
My husband filed a restraining order in North Carolina when I came to see the family. Basically, but that's where the family relocated. Okay. So, but that restraining order has never been granted. It never been served. I never knew about that up until later on. And when I filed for a motion to expunge in the court, that motion was deleted from the records and deleted from the legacy scan of the system completely. So I understood that they are using temporary restraining orders as part of the scheme, of the foreign shopping scheme. So if you have, for example, if you want a child to keep your child and divorce, there is a law in North Carolina available. You by living separately from your legal spouse, you can be divorced on no fault grounds. Whereas in Connecticut is different. That will be evaluated by the judge. So people run here and get a no fault grounds divorce by default, living separately. That's basically the services provided. But how I learned about this? So it seemed to be like a standard. Filed custody complaint in North Carolina, whilst we had ongoing mediation and active pending case in Connecticut.
Olga,
So
can I just
basically,
intervene till we get the clearer clear picture?
Mhm.
Okay, so at this point, he's in which state? Which state does he live in?
he lives in, now he's in North Carolina.
Okay, at
I
that
believe.
time, okay. So at the time that you're talking about, he was in North Carolina or in, okay.
Yes, I'm talking, he relocated from Connecticut to North Carolina
Okay, did he?
to have a better custody outcome.
So, and the reason I'm asking that is because I think when you go in to talk about what happened in the politics of how the court found a way to strip you of your daughter, it
Yes.
had to do with a little fine twisting and maneuvering,
Mhm.
crafting from
Mhm.
legislation. So you filed. So did Maria go to visit him one time and then she didn't come back? What happened?
Mhm. So I filed in Connecticut when he exposed his plan. Basically, he's saying that I'm going to divorce on no fault grounds in North Carolina, and an alienated child would not like to be with her mother. So I filed in Connecticut, went back to Connecticut and filed. I had a place to stay in Connecticut. So after we sold the house. He filed, after 6 months established in jurisdiction in North Carolina, he filed for full custody. Whilst we had that case.
So you had so if I'm correct, so if I understand it, Olga, you've got two court cases to see.
Yes.
Okay, so
Mhm.
you filed first in Connecticut,
Mhm.
and then he then subsequently moved to North
Mhm.
Carolina, and
No,
then
he moved first, and then
okay,
I
he
caught
moved
him
first, and then
red-handed,
I
and
see.
then
So you filed.
filed in Connecticut established
see.
jurisdiction.
Okay, so
Now
you filed
he is filing in North
North
Carolina.
Carolina. Okay,
Yes.
where's Maria at this point? Where's Maria?
Maria is in Maine.
No. Sorry, at the time in the story, just
At
before
that point,
you're
she's
filing.
with him all the time, with him.
Now, why is she not coming back to visit you? What is the reasoning?
We sold the house. He wanted to dispose of the property.
So she wanted to go with her dad, or he just took her?
She didn't know what was happening.
I see. So he just left. He just left with her. So
When he told me about his plans, he immediately started to alienate her, kind of,
but
openly.
he physically took her down, or I guess to North Carolina. So she is physically in North Carolina at this
Yes,
point.
physically in North Carolina for 2 years. Yeah.
And Howard's got a question. We're just trying to get a clear picture, Olga.
Yes. Mhm.
Go ahead, Olga.
Okay, so I want to go back to something you said earlier about Were you under joint tenancy in where you originally lived? It was in Connecticut?
Yes, Connecticut. We lived there for 12 years.
I know, but were you entitled to half of the estate at that point?
Yes. Yes.
So how did it go from your entitlement to half of the estate to where's that at now?
He basically, because it was in his name, he sold it and hid the funds.
Oh, okay, yes, okay, but were you in joint tenancy? Was your name on the house at any point?
No, it was not. I was entitled to half of the proceedings if it gets sold, but because it on his name, he sold without my signature.
Okay, so here's the question. Let me be very blunt. Does that constitute fraud?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so you can never end. Fraud vitiates all. Remember that expression. So
Yes.
therefore,
But maybe not with the Ontario Crown, though. Sorry.
no. This is an
I know. I was just slipping in a little.
So therefore, I'm sort of perplexed as to why you're not on that point, why you're missing that point, and what is the remedy for that point? If there's
Yeah,
fraud.
the judge, the Connecticut judge, basically fined him for. She didn't go deep into that because no, because again, he paid money basically through he bought my attorney knew the judge, and that knows a.
Okay, but what I'm saying is. Whatever happened there on the division of the assets from the sale in Connecticut, where you were entitled to half.
Yes.
It seems to me that unless, without knowing all the particulars, you would still have a claim if there was fraud or if it was done fraudulently. I'm just, I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer, but I think I'm keying into a vital point for you. And so I have no idea where one goes from there. You said the judge did rule somehow in your favor. I would certainly think you would want some sort of clarity to know where you actually stand on that fraud and what took place. Did you sign off paperwork after all that?
No, I didn't sign anything. It's just the judge awarded me half of the house proceedings.
So did you get half of the house then? Oh, okay.
So Olga, sorry to ask. So you've got is this all in one court where they're looking at child custody as well as it's a family like a different terms, they have unified family court, different terms.
Bifurcation. It's called bifurcation. So
yeah.
They managed to bifurcate the case. The custody was in North Carolina. The divorce was in Connecticut. I stood on my grounds in Connecticut. They wanted to take everything in North Carolina and deprive me of every.
Olga, like I'm highlighting this point that Olga's making right here because this is the quintessential point in her case of the crime going on. Okay, do you see this? She goes into Connecticut, so the entire thing should have been dealt in Connecticut.
Yes,
here's what they did. They dealt with only the financial piece and then slipped it down the custody piece down to or up to North Carolina. And as a result, by doing that, very slippery, then her husband has the advantage like that to get custody because that's his jurisdiction. He's already established it. So they kind of played around with rules a bit. Nobody ever caring about this little girl having both her parents. It was all slipping around and sliming around that way.
Yeah. So at this point, that was all preamble. At this point, where the crime starts. So the child had been basically what the attorney says in his complaint in North Carolina that the child had no contact with your mom for 11 months. He basically testifies under oath that there is a kidnapping. So whilst concealing Connecticut case, he basically wants to requesting full custody, stating that the child had been in no contact with the mother, concealing Connecticut established jurisdiction, valid and controlling orders. This is violation of
Can I
state
ask
and federal law.
Okay, Olga, can I please ask a question for clarification? Are you saying that it was reasoning in the court to take away custody because you hadn't seen her for a long time? That was the reasoning?
Yes, they were trying to, the attorney offering the service of termination of parental rights based on the 11 months no contact, as he stated. So 12 months no contact, they would be basically take me all the rights away. And should I not stood my grounds in Connecticut, they would take my assets away.
Yeah,
And
so
they would be basically kick me out of the matter. So I wouldn't be mother, I wouldn't be and I wouldn't be going after them. But that's the most interesting part starts. So now full custody complaint filed during ongoing pending case in Connecticut is illegal, is fraudulent. You cannot initiate a parallel jurisdiction in another state whilst there's a stay in one established continuous jurisdiction state. So the attorney files, but he doesn't actually file the complaint. He hands complaint to the judge. And how do I know that he hands complaint to the judge? That all the orders issued with the complaint and issued with the summons are stamped 118. So the complaint should have been handed for those orders to be printed out. Nobody serves you orders and the complaint. So should be complaint and summons. And that's where the basically kidnapping starts at the state level. So what we see is the judge who initiates the case with the orders. He initiates the case breaching himself Connecticut stay. Breaching himself Connecticut stay, it's a violation of state and federal law, Parental Kidnapping Act and UCCJA. Because there are existing valid and controlling orders of one state, so the other state should just respect them and should issue a notice of jurisdictional issues. Basically, we see the judge who turns me into a defendant, stripping all my rights bestowed by Connecticut family court orders and family law. Basically continues to seize the child further after she has been seized already by the attorney who said 11 months.
Olga,
No.
can I just clarify in very, very basic terms, okay, rather than getting into legalese, so everybody understands, okay? Take me through this a little bit. So you filed in Connecticut for the whole thing.
Yes.
He filed in North Carolina for the custody piece.
Yes.
Okay? When you went to court in Connecticut, is it correct or is it fair to say that you went in as the applicant and that judge in Connecticut, did he transfer it to North Carolina?
They basically needed to do two things. And the judge being an attorney on this case, he initiated the case.
What do you mean by the judge being an attorney? What do you mean by that?
A complaint had been handed to the judge. It hasn't been officially filed. So what happens when you initiate the case? You initiate the case with a complaint and summons. The clerk issues summons. So then they basically case initiated. And then you need to have 30 days to respond. And then the orders may be issued later. This is the case where the complaint had been handed because orders were issued with the summons and the complaint later, backdated basically. So you cannot issue complaint and orders. And they all stamped 118. It means that complaint had been on the judge's table for a while. So he needed to print those orders out to prepare those orders. So this is a violation of the basic kind of order in which you initiate the case. This is the case initiated by the judge, and that's where the snag is. The judge ordered his staff to conceal Connecticut jurisdiction, to conceal, there's a boxes there in the order saying, pending case in the district, they didn't take it. There's a pending mediation, they didn't take it. He orders me to have a mediation in the middle of my mediation in Connecticut, to have it in North Carolina.
Can I just intervene for a second, please, Olga?
Yes.
And I've got Howard's going to, so we have a clear picture, okay? And by the way, you can't order somebody to mediation. That's ludicrous. But anyway, I know they do that anyway.
After 11 months of no contact, contempt,
okay,
avoiding contempt with mediation.
So if I understand this correctly, if I've got the dates, can you help me very clearly with dates, okay?
Yes.
At some point, was that about 2022 when your ex moved and took Maria with him?
Yes.
What date? Okay, so 2022.
August 5, 2022.
Okay. So were you able to visit her while the court proceedings were taking place?
No, they were coming back to pack the stuff from the house and going back to North Carolina. But I was taking care of the house.
Okay, so I see. So he'd found, look, so they'd come back together, and that time that you would spend was considered to be visit time or time with mom. Like it wasn't.
No, we were not separating by then. We were basically family relocating.
Okay, I see. So, but him going to North Carolina, were you supposed to go with him as well?
Yes, it was supposed to be in my house.
Okay. I see. Okay, I see. So what, at some point, you didn't come down or something had, so
I was taking care of the house because house was leaking through. We had chicken, we had garden, I needed to paint and repair it. So
no, understand that. Okay. So I'm just trying to get a clear picture, Olga, so everybody knows the actual situation. So then you filed so at some point it would have been apparent to you and to your ex that the marriage is not intact, that you're going
when I came to visit them, saying, there was a concert, and he said, if you're not staying with us tonight, I will be able to divorce you, in August, basically, like will be a year. And if you stay with us,
that's what I'm looking for, Olga, just because we need to have a really, really clear, tight picture of it. Okay. So he basically forced the hand and put you in a position where he forced the hand of a divorce. And I understand. So you went into, at that point, then you went into Connecticut, filed it in the whole thing. He went to North Carolina for the custody piece. And the judge in Connecticut, they finagled it so that this was now a North Carolina jurisdiction.
That was when they established parallel jurisdiction, which is basically, you cannot establish two parallel jurisdictions. It should be one. So they basically, the judge seized the child and stripped my rights and the concealed Connecticut jurisdiction.
Yeah, Maria,
the judge in North Carolina.
Yep.
He wanted to grant the divorce on no fault grounds in August, basically to put the Connecticut in front of the facts. This is what we did. We're already done with this. We're done and dusted.
Yeah, no,
so
I think
when I saw that they are not they're concealing Connecticut court, I came and said, "What's happening?" So we have conflicting schedule, and they say me, "Oh, this happens all the time." This is the attorney. All the time this is their trades. They are basically. Purge themselves, so but it's not considered a crime, but you should accept this. But this wasn't exactly, they were taking attorney as a scapegoat. This is the judge who in his orders concealed Connecticut jurisdiction, instructing the staff to do that.
Can I clarify it just in like non-legalese terms again? Because when you're saying that, so you've got a judge instructing, you've got a judge basically who has no consideration or empathy for a mom and a daughter. Okay, so this is
it's not empathy. It's a business of offering forum shopping services in North Carolina. This is the judge who basically, the documents came to him, the documents attorney were handed. The attorney did not file the complaint, custody complaint. He handed it to the judge. Handed in his
when you say
hands.
attorney, which attorney is that? Which attorney?
Attorney Campbell. Attorney Campbell.
Okay, but is he for you? Is he for the state, or is he for
This
your
is in North
husband?
Carolina for my husband. In North Carolina,
so your
but we
husband's-
in
okay, so your husband's-
Connecticut, a case in Connecticut, the
Right.
North Carolina attorney files in North Carolina, but he does not file. He hands the complaint to the judge. Now the judge operates as an attorney for plaintiff. Judge in a judicial robe, because the judge issues orders prior the complaint is officially filed. There's no complaint, but the orders are getting issued. He instructs his staff to conceal Connecticut jurisdiction, to research, basically dig up on my personal information, because there were not enough information in the complaint to fill those orders out. He also requested the staff to manipulate relocation and separation date, which was in attorney complaint. So he puts a separation date as that August. So he would grant that divorce on no fault grounds.
Olga, the reason I'm asking the clarification questions is I'm trying to show a pattern for all of the parents, and your story is not the same, for example, as Lindsay's and Chris's, where you've got children's or even Colleen's, you've got a child protective services that comes in. Your story doesn't have that. What I'm trying to establish is how the state, even without that, yours is parallel to Felix's, where the state itself gains financially and wielded around its little rules, flipping it around like this, so that it would achieve an effect. That's what I'm just trying to establish how yours is in the same category. Okay, so it's always, so it sounds like you've got a bunch of bankers, right? You've got a judge and a C. They're all aware at a different level how they're going to shift around like a child trafficking situation, that she's property here and this is how the money's draining, and they've already established that. And I think what we can see in your case is that they're doing they're doing a trafficking and they're facilitating the kidnapping, and you didn't get the child protective services. You got them right there. The family court, as what you were saying, is the judge in fact was so crafty and unlawful that he actually became your opposition rather than him delegating.
It's a neutral party. He was supposed to be neutral party.
He's supposed to be arbitrating between two parties.
Yes.
But there isn't. And he just went in and became for your husband.
Yes.
Sorry,
Attorney did not dare to file that complaint to breach the stay. Breaching the stay.
I want to be mindful that Alfred's just let us know we have a 30-minute till the end. So Howard, why don't you ask the question and I'm going to kind of close up.
Okay, so unfortunately, we're getting into some very technical things here.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. It's very technical with her story.
Because, for example, did you have a lawyer in North Carolina representing you?
No, I had a legal aid in North Carolina. At that point, remember, they took all the money away. The house was sold, and the proceeds from the house were only a little bit put on the account. The rest was hidden.
Did you not get any money from the sale?
Only a year later.
But you did get money a year later.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, this is important because the reason why this isn't like the others, because it's not like the others.
No, it's not. It's very different.
Because, for instance, when the judge, when that was handed to him, did he step down from the bench when he received that?
When he received what?
Like, for instance, in all my experience in court, it would have to be a motion accepted by the judge, and anything that goes from the lawyer of your husband, you would have to be served equally. And if you weren't, then on that point alone, there's an issue. Like, there's a lot going on here where it's way beyond, like, I don't think it's the role of our tribunal to go. I know what Marianne's trying to do, but I've had a lot of court experience. as an observer, and I've seen situations in which the plaintiff, and by the way, being a plaintiff is the best thing that can happen to you because you are actually moving into trust law being a plaintiff, but that's another discussion.
Yeah, I think what
But
we're trying to do, and maybe I'm just going to finish up, Olga, just so I get to the important point of your story, which is as relevant to the other stories. You have not seen Marie in how long?
Basically 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Okay. Did the court have any consideration for that relationship?
No,
Okay.
because the judge is operating as attorney for plaintiff. He, in his default judgment, after his immunity was stripped, he basically used slander,
Okay.
and
So
that slander, basically that order went to the school, and I
Okay.
do not get to see
Go
the
ahead.
child. The
Go
school
ahead, Howard.
doesn't
But
respond.
so did you appeal what the judge did?
No, because the judge manipulated the records. He deleted all the motions he didn't want. He concealed the titles of some motions. He deleted some orders.
Okay, so my frustration as a judge listening to this, I know some of the things that I think would be logical to do in this situation, but I think what is fundamental. So what I don't understand is why have you not seen your daughter in 2.5 years?
That's
What?
where we're going to get to the crux, please. Yeah.
Okay, so I will. Okay, that's really important. Okay, so I yield.
So
Go
the
ahead.
judge made up diagnosis of my daughters, say that she's basically a child with she was absolutely healthy child. So in his temporary order for sole custody, after attorney filed, together with orders, that was 11 months no contact. So he still rewarded the sole custody to my husband, basically gave order favorable to attorney, stating that my child is a patient with the physical whatever disabilities, and I cannot basically take her away. That the way he put it, and all the slander he put in that sole custody order in North Carolina affected my relationship with the child in the school. And I knew that this is absolutely unfair, and the child be basically kidnapped, because you cannot. It was kidnapped. I stopped my husband. We filed. We had therapy. We had the agreement. And then they single-sidedly terminated the therapy, filed for full custody, denied me access, documenting in the custody complaints that I didn't see the child. They were denying access. No 11 months, no contact during mediation in Connecticut. So the judge issued orders together with a complaint for visitations, basically violating the agreement we had. You cannot issue orders for visitations whilst you have mediation. You cannot interrupt mediation in another state, creating parallel jurisdiction. And I knew this was fraudulent. So
Okay.
I was kind of like we were saying before, that you're so understanding this is abduction at a state level, and what's happening is your mind cannot put up with this and saying I will get my child back. I made everything so ensure that my husband had a child had her father with him. We were in therapy, and then suddenly the judge issues orders breaking the Connecticut stay, trying to intercept basically a jurisdiction, intercepting consent.
Can I again take it out of the legalese terms, because it's just easier we can understand. Okay, a little bit more. So here it sounds to me like your ex-husband pretty much did a kidnapping, and the state and court not only didn't stop it, but facilitated this. And
The Connecticut did stop it. We had we filed the infidelity agreement.
Okay.
He found an attorney which offers in North Carolina, because they have
Okay.
divorce and custody
Okay.
separate.
Sure. Okay. So at this point, so we have an understanding. You haven't seen her for 2.5 years. Why, if you were to reach out, I think this is what Howard was getting at too.
They were
If you,
concealing her from me. They would not let me in.
who's they?
Attorney instructing my husband, because attorney wanted a better custody outcome, termination of parental rights. So he would need to report in his complaint that 11 months no contact.
Okay.
It meant no contact. They
Okay.
need to conceal the child
Oh,
from me.
Okay.
Telling
Okay.
my husband at the same time that the orders of Connecticut do not apply. Basically, induce him into his felony fraud, which is
Okay.
called custodial interference.
What what will probably be best to do is when we all meet, like as a tribunal, we can go through the cases and see, because yours is a different one because it looks like it was husband versus wife in a really nasty battle. Am I right, Howard? Are you agreeing with this? Like a really nasty battle. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, in all the cases, there's manipulation,
Yeah,
forethought, cannot, and there is here too.
yeah,
But
I see that.
but
The state did do that.
but in Olga's case, there's a different level of technicality. It sounds
Yeah.
like there's an old boys network in North Carolina.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what I'm
Yes.
trying to that's what I'm
Yeah.
sort of
They
saying is
are
that it
offering
wasn't
This,
we don't
services and taking taking advantage of vulnerable parents, basically seizing the child to
oh,
take advantage for
yes,
their
yes,
personal
yes.
benefits. That's what's
Yeah, I
happening.
think what we're going to need to, what we will do is sort of look at how that one how it fits in, because certainly you don't see a court that has any concern for mother to daughter relationship. It's a little bit different, and we'll go through it because it's not quite where the state comes in and affects the custody split. It sounds like it but let's because but at the
It
same time though,
does.
Howard,
You're missing this
yeah.
point. The
Okay.
judge is operating as an attorney. It's not an attorney who files a complaint. There's no complaint existing. Complaint is a felony contempt of Connecticut court.
so so
This
so
is the
so so
judge.
No,
so so
yeah, I
but
see what she's saying. Yeah, I see what she's saying. Yeah, she
I
makes
know
sense.
that,
Yeah,
but depending, see, once again, you need some very critical advice to know whether this judge is in dishonor, whether you should go after him, whether
Yes,
what.
after the judge, because the judge is dishonest. He
Okay,
is,
so because it would appear that your husband had the resources and the money to hire some what I would call nefarious individuals in the system to basically do his bidding and cover it under legalese
yeah, I
as
think that's
opposed to
that.
lawfulness. And
Yeah,
but it's
that's
something still a little bit different.
yeah. No, I see that. So let me just sum it. If I can close this up because I think the Zoom is going to close very quickly. So thank you, Olga. No, we do see it. We're trying to find all how they're all the pattern in each of how the breaks happen. And I do see, and maybe what might be helpful in Olga's case, if you could get me the document so we could show this judge engaging in this sleazy behavior.
yes,
Okay,
absolutely,
that's
yes.
kind of the key, I think, Howard, because her
Mhm.
case, it's still the state being being a bit of a jackass, as you say, in the old boys network, trying to
Concealing
find a
Connecticut state. In Australia, they
yeah.
concealed Connecticut state
So,
ongoing jurisdiction.
so what might be important is if you can get me that documentation for the tribunal,
Mhm.
then we could at least see how there was a gain for the judge, because perhaps the judge who did this move, it knows that he's going to make a percentage because of the custody split, that he's going to make it on his retirement fund or something. And I think that's where we're kind of heading in, Olga, is that
Yes,
somebody at some level there is making money, and
yes.
I think, is that fair enough, Howard, that we could look how that fits into the pattern? We'll have to discuss it with the other judges.
Okay, so just a couple of, I'm looking at the time. We only have a few minutes left.
You only a few minutes, yeah.
Okay, so basically, how many court numbers do you have on record in Connecticut? Do you have any idea?
What do you mean court numbers?
Every time you go
How
to
many court
court, you're given a court number, and that's what is.
No, you got one court number for your basically trial.
Well, in Hawaii, I know one individual that's been to court 66 times and 66 numbers. So
No. We have one number assigned in both in North Carolina and in
okay,
Connecticut.
now, in terms of what was going on in North Carolina, is there a new number?
No.
Okay, I don't understand that. How can you take a?
Yeah, this is where I think the paperwork's going to be kind of revealing. I want to have an open mind to see what they've
Yes.
done in the sleaziness in the paperwork.
Because there's a lot of this to me doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Be-
Olga, go ahead, Howard.
Yeah, because I can't see how you would do anything in North Carolina without a new number being issued. I know cases where same number and they've issued.
No. Carolina has his own number. Connecticut has their own number.
Okay, yes, okay, that's important because.
Yes, two numbers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go before a court, even if you're representing yourself, you have to be given everything as they have to be given everything. So at any point where documents were served and you weren't served at the same time, that's a no-no. So I don't want to go too much deeper. I'm very confused in terms of what happened, didn't happen. Ultimately, it's money that's talking. Obviously,
Yeah.
your husband has resources to perhaps do things that he shouldn't be doing, or you have people who are accepting.
Yeah.
But I see some similarities here, but it's still very different.
Yeah, it is different. I think we're going to have to cap it. I'm sorry, because we're at the end of the meeting. But I think what we'll need to discuss is to what degree the state was it just passive and silly, and not to be able to? Is the system just failed, Olga, or did somebody? Here's the key. Here's the key, Howard. I'm thinking, did the system deliberately go out to do this aggressively to separate? Or was this just a failure in the family court system that somebody didn't? And I think Howard.
No, it's neither. It's neither.
What do you think, Howard? Okay.
It's a corrupt. North Carolina was corrupt.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah.
And money and money some way bought things off. It has nothing to do with CAS or any of that.
No. This is why I'm thinking. I think the parallel we do see is the state government. Making money to create it. HRFA does fit into it. It's just got an interesting twist the way they've taken advantage of her. Do you think?
We're seeing greed here somewhere. We're seeing greed. We're seeing money. Somebody's got money to make things to.
That's
to
what
make things
that's what the child agencies do.
And that's not the same thing as a whole system being organized to bring down the family unit. You have her husband ending up with custody because he had the resources and the people in North Carolina to do it. That's very different.
No, I see. Yeah, I see your point. I agree.
Very
No,
different.
I concede. You got it, Howard. Yeah, it's a different case. It's
very
shady in
different.
its own way. Yeah, I see it.
I
Howard.
wanted to know that this is the this is important. So despite that there is you're saying there is a funds coming from my husband, but this is a trap. They trap you into felony fraud, saying that Connecticut, as any other state, laws do not apply in North Carolina. They trap you in a contempt and then file denying that there is anywhere else existing a case. They establish jurisdiction, not letting your child, your access to the child first 6 months to do this, to file in. So
Okay,
this is
but-
already
but-
abduction at this
Okay,
point.
but we're running out of time. But
We're running out of time, Olga. We
so
have to
the key question is, out of all the states your husband could have moved to, why North Carolina? So I would say he was very informed, pre-informed in terms of what he was going to do and how he was going to do it.
Yeah, I'd say that's
It's like a lot of people
I'm
from
agreeing with you, Howard.
It's like a lot of people from California will on purpose get married in Nevada because being married in Nevada means you don't have to split your family assets. But if you
Would you
got
say-
married in California, you do.
Howard, would you say then that Olga and Felix's cases are in a category over here, very different? Because they are the other parent manipulating state to state stuff and overturns of money, maybe?
We're dealing more with the personality of the other spouse manipulating
Yeah.
versus a total system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you on
Howard,
that
I
one.
think this is the system which traps people in
No,
North Carolina.
No, you're right there in North Carolina, but it's a different system.
Yes.
It's a very different
It's
system.
a different, probably what I ought to have done, and I'm gonna have to, like, we have to end the meeting because I know, but
Yeah.
probably what I ought to have done, Howard, is I wish I'd had a little time to talk to organize it with Simone and Ananda, because it's very, I'm trying to do a big umbrella, and maybe what I ought to have done is cases where it's like one parent versus the other,
But
put them here, and
but
we should have just done the
no,
child
no, no,
agencies. You
no,
don't
this
think
is
so?
fine. No, because
Okay.
because this is perfect because we're maturing as Olga, we're down, she hasn't seen her child for 2.5 years. We still have to get back at that.
Well, it's still bondicide. I still bondicide. It's still bondicide, and I still think, in Olga's case, it's a nefarious, but it's a different, and Felix's, it's a different type of animal, but an animal nevertheless. So if I
The
look at it,
results are the same.
Yeah.
The results are still as evil,
the results are still, however they get to it, you're getting a different attack on the crime through the US, whereas one parent versus the other, you're getting a different beast, but the same result. So if a murder is our thing, one is a hanging, the other is a burn. So we're just getting it from, this is what I wanted to talk at a different, at a different time, the different routes. Norway is a direct hit like this, okay? That is the model. Canada's almost a Norway going like this, okay? Children's aid and child services is in every camp. In the States, you got a bit of a different, but I have to end it because it is 8 minutes too. Is there, Howard, is there anything you wanted
I,
to say to Alfred
my
before we
heart goes
go?
out to everyone, and for
Sorry,
your
Olga,
and
Lindsay.
for your bravery and for your sharing. Um, I I hope everyone can make it Tuesday night. I hope that is going forward because there are answers. I think there are forces moving ahead where whatever we are doing personally or within our lives, I think there's going to be some massive, massive things moving forward affecting all of us.
Yeah.
And I see all of us, no matter how we've been injured. I mean, all of you are here through your children, through all that, but I see a healing and a coming together eventually, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
going
we do.
to that.
Yeah, we do. Just different banking cartels at it in different ways. That's all. We're just trying, everything's got is the same bondicide, but it's just different. But thank you, everybody. And thank you, Alfred. So I guess, Alfred, you can probably end the meeting. And thank you for taking the time. I hope that you recover from your broken rib.
Oh,
Olga, we do, yours is it's nasty, eh? Really complex stuff. You got real, I can see real shysters, but it's all coming in. We'll figure out how different venues to commit that are happening.
and remember, James, we have a resource with him that may shed creativity and light in ways we can't imagine moving
Yeah,
forward.
I think so. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. And I guess I'll put it to Alfred to end the thing, and I'm just gonna slip out and we'll talk
Okay.
to you. Okay.
God bless. God
Bye.
bless.